Hello everybody, just a brief video here going over the March 15th patch notes. So we're not going to go over everything, we're just going to go over the Ranger stuff. And then I'm going to actually show you guys a new build combo that I ended up coming up with. So they fixed this issue of Soul Beast here where it labeled the Jade Cannon as a blast finisher, which is kind of weird, I guess. But they actually nerfed Elementalist, which is like tons of people are pissed off right now about that. How it'll actually play out in reality, I don't really know because of the fact that they did buff some of the other stuff, I think. Oh no, I guess they didn't. I don't know. I can't really tell. It was kind of funny to see though. But Untamed. So it's really cool. They actually buffed it up. Not by very much, but it is definitely a decent buff. The damage bonus percentage from Validity Untamed was increased from 15 to 25% damage in PvE. So this is just like a 10% damage buff for whenever you are unleashed. And then your damage reduction, this is a huge thing by the way right here. Damage reduction percent increased from 10% to 25%, a 15% more like defense, buff for PvE. That's fucking insane. I don't know why they did this though. Restorative strikes, they nerfed it for some reason. They said it was to be more in line with other healing based on damage dealt, but the thing is, nobody ran this. I never saw anybody run this. I looked up all sorts of build videos. I went on meta battle. I did all this shit, and nobody ever ran this. So I was really interested in just being like, what the fuck was the point of that? But anyway, and the other ones here was just some bugs that happened. They actually, I didn't even know there was a bug for Ferocious Symbiosis where the trait would stop applying effect stacks to the player's pet in some cases. So that might actually help out a little bit of damage. I don't really know. I didn't really tell much of a difference in terms of that, in terms of my pet damage. But yeah, so this is a pretty good buff. I actually did notice that we are a bit more in line now with the sustained damage that Soul Beast does. Not even close in terms of burst damage that Soul Beast does. Like I'm getting upwards of like just casually 41k burst damage on Soul Beast with just camping Greatsword. Like it's fucking crazy. Not even close to the burst damage that Soul Beast will do. I don't think it'll ever be close. But sustained damage wise, it actually gets relatively close to what Soul Beast is doing. Which is definitely very, very nice. I was really excited to see that, personally, that we are a little more in line with Soul Beast. It'll still be better to run Soul Beast pretty much no matter what, but I feel like groups won't be, they'll look at you and be like, he's an Untamed, what the fuck? But I hope they won't, like, kick you in some cases for being an Untamed. This definitely helps out a little bit with the damage for sure. I did notice about, like a 2 to 3, maybe even sometimes 4 in terms of the burst damage, 1,000 increase in terms of your damage. So yeah, so there's two different builds I have here. So for open world stuff, it's basically going to be the same shit as before. It's just going to be this here. So I'll just give you a second to copy it down. We're not going to go over too much. This isn't a build video. Yeah, so basically most of the time I keep my pet unleashed in open world because damage doesn't really matter that much in open world. So I keep my pet unleashed most of the time. I also want that more simple sort of play. And so, just do that, and then whatever my Unleashed Ambush skill is up here, Unleashed Power, we just use it, and then we swap back to our pet being unleashed. And that's typically how I like playing it, and then you use these skills off cooldown besides these two right here. So, yeah, and this guy just said, fuck off. I feel like I've seen this guy before. What the hell? That guy sounds so familiar. I don't know what the fuck is happening here. These guys are, like, being assholes to each other. Anyway, yeah, but for instance content, I ended up coming up, I basically just copied it from Meta Battle, but before, it was, an okay thing. It was like a little bit better compared to this build, but now it feels like it's a lot better. I was getting consistently like 26, 27,000, where, before on this build I was getting, like 24, 23,000 sustained DPS, and that was just by camping Greatsword, by the way, just the entire time. I wasn't even bother swapping, so for that it's pretty good, actually. But yeah, it's a pretty big, increase now. So this is the build that I'll be using for instance content, so that being high-end fractals and then strike missions. So yeah, this is just the build right here that I'll be using. We have Frost Trap and Exploding Spores, and then we have the Iboga instead of, the combination I was doing before. We're just going to keep the Iboga out constantly. In the case the Iboga dies, we're just going to swap to the second best pet, which is the Jacaranda. And yeah, that's basically how I do it. But instead of keeping my pet unleashed most of the time, I instead keep myself unleashed most of the time. So we use these three skills, swap, use our Unleashed Ambush skill, and then just use these two skills until our Unleashed buff ends up coming back up. and then we'll go and do that whole rotation again. So this is similar to how I actually did the playstyle in my first build video. Um, so yeah, that's what I'll be doing in instance content. It definitely does a little bit better. For sure, it gets relatively close to the sustained image that Soul Beast does, at least for my testing. And that's just me cramping Greatsword. On Soul Beast, I was switching to Sword Axe as well, while doing that. So, yeah, it's just an interesting thing to think about for sure with that. I hope, they'll buff it more in the future. I don't really think that's enough quite yet, but it is something interesting to think about, and hopefully it'll, improve the reception of Untamed just a little bit more. I definitely think there's some widespread issues to fix. Like, they definitely need to enable autocast for these skills, or at least these two skills right here. Like I talked about in my last video, an option similar to how we have control mouse too for this one right here, and all these different skills. So yeah, I would like to see that sort of option come to these for auto attacks. So yeah, that's gonna cover, and peace.